Consider this your trigger warning. The following program is strictly satire and is not meant to be taken seriously. So don't get all butthurt, you liberal snowflakes, just because we skewer your sacred cows and expose all your lies and hypocrisy. Truth hurts, and so does satire. So grab a drink, pull up a chair, and enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. Jim here sitting in for John. I'm in Studio A and we're going to get it on. I think today we're going to do a, what do you call it? We're going to do one of those things where I do my thing and then you do your thing. Yeah, they call it the monologue and then the Q&A, and you're the inner circle. Yes, you are the inner circle. What a good day, huh? All right, so we've got some camera issues in the studio. John's taking care of that, but I'll be right here with you guys throughout the show. I got one of those cerveza sneezes coming. You know, and speaking of that, a lot of people, I guess, have been sick lately. I've actually heard it. A lot of people have gotten sick. What's interesting is Dr. Fauci's not out there screaming it's cerveza bug or it's the unicorn virus or nothing like that. They're not saying that it has anything to do with COVID. I guess they're just accepting that the colds and flus still exist. Anyways, here we are. And I've got some big stuff for you. Last night at the Monday Night Live, had the zoo on Monday night. John said it did really well. A lot of participants there, and that was terrific. A good turnout for a Monday. I think he said almost 400 people live at one point on a Monday. Are people interested in things going to crap? Well, possible, I guess. I guess it just might be getting there. People realizing things are not so chipper out there. Well, I'll tell you what, let's start with this story. Oh, yeah, go ahead and send in your questions. Put them in the comment section here. And we've got, ooh, man, that dude is taking care of questions. So he'll put you up in the second half of the show. Again, I'll do the monologue here, and then we'll get to your questions in the, you guys are the inner circle. You guys are the super secret squirrel dudes. Yeah, and we've got the Subscribe Star and the preparedmind.club, the super flagship email hot tip suggestion shopping channel, everything you want. Well, not quite. Well, we do our best. And then there's always the rsyndicate.com, which is your super clearinghouse for all things prepping, patriot, intelligent thought, looking around what's going on, you know, basically reality. So let's start this off. The Prepared Mind email was hit. Ooh, man, I want to thank him for this, and I want to lead off today. I want to lead off. Let me silence everything here in the old studio. Down in Nigeria. Nigeria, by the way, is a massive oil producer, and they're a member of OPEC, which is the oil producing and exporting countries. OPEC stands for that. And Nigeria, I think, if they may be the number one now. They may have outsized, I think, even Saudi Arabia in oil production. But guess what has happened? Well, first let's talk about OPEC. OPEC has always been for and against the United States. You know, they're not so much in love with us. But Saudi Arabia struck a deal with the United States government that the U.S. will protect them, and then in exchange, the U.S. will get cheaper oil. Kind of. Well, Saudi Arabia and other countries have now turned to the BRICS nations, the Brazil, India, China, Russia, South Africa. There's a big union being formed financially and also militarily. And Saudi Arabia is not part of that. So as the United States insults the rest of the world, which is made up of OPEC countries, by the way, OPEC countries are moving away from the U.S. Get ready for your oil prices to go up. In Nigeria, United States government embassy staff, guess what? They have been shot. They have been gunned down. That's right, in Anambra, Nigeria. The U.S. embassy under attack. There's no respect for the United States. Thanks, Joe Biden. Thanks, Nancy Pelosi. Thanks, Chuck Schumer. Thanks, Hillary Clinton. Thanks, Barack Obama. And thank you to the rest of the Democrat Party for basically turning the entire world against this country. They, folks, are doing all they can to destroy us. I mean, what do you think? Do you think with the failure of the US dollar, as its purchasing power goes down and down and down and down, do you think the rest of the world is happy accepting dollars as they get watered down by the Treasury, by the Federal Reserve, by the US government? Oh, we've got all the money we need. It's called modern monetary theory. We'll just print up some more. Yeah, that inflation thing, don't worry about that. That's transitory. Yeah, it transitoried from my wallet into theirs. Here we go with more trans stuff, right? Freaking trans. Well, let's have some more fun, folks. Dealing with these left-wing lunatics. Really, folks, they don't understand what it is they're doing. But they want more of it. They want more socialism. Now, in Toronto, Canada, we're kind of doing an around the world thing right now. In Toronto, Canada, there is an anti-capitalist cafe. Anti-capitalist is code for communist. I mean, really, to call a cafe anti-capitalist, it's closing. Why is it closing? Is the government mad at it? No. Are people protesting it? No. What they say is, come in and get what you need and pay what you can. That's right. Give to those, what they need and take from people what they can afford. Well, you see, when communism is voluntary, it fails. Nobody is giving money. They're just taking shit out of the store so the dude's going out of business. Commies will not support communism, folks, because they're a bunch of cheapskates. They want everyone else to pay the bill. But when they're asked to volunteer their own, they do not. Who does that sound like to you? To me, it sounds a little bit like Democrats. They want to tax the shit out of everybody, but not them because they're special. They want to take away everyone's guns, but not theirs because they're responsible. They want your kids to go to public school and get groomed and groped, but not their kids. They go to private schools. Anyways, yeah, commies do not support communism, folks, but they'll take your money in a frickin' second. Now, a lot of incredible stuff has happened, and this one just caught my attention. John's a little drier. Rogers, he's kind of a hard ass, but, I like to just sit back and have a lot more fun with stuff. I like to laugh and screw around a lot. It's just my nature. Identical twins, maybe, but not quite. Anyways, I've been laughing at this guy since they announced his candidacy. John Fetterman, a.k.a. Festerman, senator out of Pennsylvania. He beat another clown, Dr. Oz, in a race. Talk about a political freaking weirdo show. Dr. Oz versus Uncle Fester from the Munsters. Anyways, the Addams Family. Pardon me. Don't want to offend those people. Anyways, brain-damaged Democrat heartthrob Festerman, he was on a banking committee meeting in the U.S. Senate, the United States Senate, where they're supposed to handle the nation's issues. They invite a guy with brain damage in. How many strokes did he have? How many months did he spend in a mental hospital? So they get to him in the meeting, folks, and this is indicative of where the government's at. This is why you need to be prepared with food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine. Hey, and that means of musical self-defense, right? Musical. That's music to my ears when I hear about good stories having to do with the Second Amendment. Anyways, they're talking about bank failures. And this total disaster of a human being begins talking about the SNAP program. They've got banking people down, all the senators are up high looking down on the people who are testifying, which I think is a freaking insult. They should be down in a pit. They're our servants. Anyways, starts talking about SNAP. SNAP is the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program that is for schools and children. It has zero, and I mean 0.000% to do with bank failures and banks, period. Essentially, the SHTF upshot to that is that the government has no idea what it's even doing. What is this meeting about? Fuck it, let's talk about school lunches instead of the bank failures that are going on. Don't worry, the federal government will get to the bank failures, but first we need to make sure that there's no peanut butter because someone might have an allergy there. Yeah, folks, that's our Democrat Party at work, hard at work, making sure that the SNAP program is in place. I tell you. Now, let's move around. I want to do more international stuff. World War III. Serious business, World War III. Over in Ukraine with Russia, etc. Well, the Russians allegedly just demolished, bombed the living shit out of a depleted uranium stockpile of munitions. That is bombs, missiles, bullets, whatever you want to call these artillery shells that were being staged in Ukraine to be used on Russians in Russia, and also using depleted uranium shells inside of what was once Ukraine. So Ukraine, Zelensky, his military geniuses are using depleted uranium shells on ground that they say they want to keep, or are they trying to use those to break into and destroy nuclear power plants, right? The big one in Zaporizhia. So there's this ammo depot, let's just call it that, an ammunition depot, depository, and it got obliterated, just obliterated. Right now, it's not 100% clear whether or not that all the uranium shells were vaporized there. But what is absolutely 100% certain is that Ukraine and its allies lost millions, if not billions of dollars in munitions, equipment, etc., etc. It can't be replaced, folks. Not cheaply, right? And Russia has been and continues to carry out these kind of strikes against Ukraine. So not only is Ukraine losing on the front line, where they're fighting with the Russians, back in the supply section where they're sending in all these supplies that, Joe Biden, let's give another 1.3 billion. Let's give another $1.7 billion in military aid. That stuff is being sent over there just to be bombed by the Russians. How do you lose a war? Certainly, it's a lot easier to lose one than to win one. Good golly, folks. So, again, I'm going to do this monologue thing with you guys, and then you do the Q&A with me, what we call the inner circle. Get your questions down below. Get them down below. I've got stuff I'm going to be talking about, but you guys often have topics that are tertiary. They're tangential. They're great that you guys approach things from a different angle, and we all get to talk about all the different topics. And boy, wow, the email's full of all kinds of shit. By the way, yeah. Let's not forget, and John did talk about this morning at the Zero Dark 30, that Hungary, the country of Hungary, you would think that if Turkey and Hungary became partners, that the turkey would feed Hungary. When you're hungry, you eat turkey. Anyway, sorry about that. Hungary was going to have their gas pipeline from Russia bombed by Ukraine, destroyed, attacked by Ukraine. You know, what do you think of that? What do you think of Ukraine going after the oil, the gas, the energy supplies required by other countries? Isn't it interesting that Ukraine gets to besmirch and belittle and punish the rest of Europe? The rest of Europe has to suffer because Ukraine decided to piss off the Russians. I find it unbelievable, and I find it dangerous also to give someone like Zelensky that much credit, that much power, everything. Just unbelievable what is going on. All right. Let's move forward a little if we can. We got a lot of ground to cover. Wow, going through John's notes here. Get your questions down below, please. Now, let's come back here to America. We have a fruitcake issue here. While we have a fruitcake in charge of Ukraine over there, making a mess, costing billions of dollars. And for what? Let me ask you this, folks. How the fuck are you in America going to benefit from Ukraine if Zelensky and his Nazi army were to defeat the Russians and send them packing back to Russia? How do you and I benefit by that? Do we financially benefit from it? Do we socially benefit from it? Does our energy system, does our any system, anything, do we benefit educationally? Do we benefit commercially? How do we benefit by helping Zelensky? No one has been able to answer this for me to my satisfaction. Yet this little bastard's running the entire thing and then accusing the world of, you know, not supporting him, and that's bad. Anyways, that's international. Here nationally, we have a group of people who are fruitcakes also, just like Zelensky, and he is a fruitcake, folks. Don't have any doubts. Look it up. Look up Zelensky's past and then tell me, oh yeah, he's a moral, decent guy. Anyways, here in America, we have a serious problem. Folks, Sports Illustrated has now joined the woke brigade. It is time to boycott Sports Illustrated if you already hadn't, right? They have now put a tranny man on the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. What the fuck are they thinking? Folks, boycott sports teams that want to get extra woke. In fact, boycott entire leagues if there are no decent teams to support that are like, you know what, take your woke and shove it. And of course, boycott Sports Illustrated for being woke. I do not want to look at a man in a bikini with his fake man boobs, his man chin, his man shoulders, his man Adam's apple. I don't want to look at that. That's creepy as fuck. Now, I did bring up the other day to John, and I talked about with him the the fact that the Miller Lite Beer Company said it was wrong to use women to sell beer. You know, bikini models here and bikini models there. That was the old Miller Lite. That was the old beer company way to sell beer. Well, why is it okay for tranny men to be models for Sports Illustrated and fashion beauty contest parading hoes? Why do we need to see men acting like women in that swimsuit competition, in that evening dress competition? Why are we supposed to worship men dressing as women, acting like sex symbols or objects of sexual interest, which they are not? And it is completely off-putting and disgusting for them to think that we would want to have sex with them just because they're wearing makeup, just because they managed to get some boobs in their chest. But they want to be sexy. Wow, talking about getting in touch with your feminine side. These people are sick as fuck. Oh, but you know, that's good. But fantasizing about women, wanting to have sex with women. We're supposed to not do that, but we need to sexualize trannies and, of course, drag queens. Now, to put some icing on the frickin' cake, folks, this is where America's at. This is our domestic issue. This is what the government, media, news, entertainment is pushing at children. This crap. But don't you dare try and have sex with a real woman. In fact, there is a woman who is suing former presidential candidate, former mayor of New York, former federal prosecutor who put the mob, I think John Gotti, in prison, Rudy Giuliani. This woman is suing him for sexual harassment. Now you're like, no, of course, John, if you sexually harass a woman. No. She was hired. And by the way, if she was hired to offer sex to Rudy, isn't that prostitution? She admits that she, quote, was hired to satisfy his sexual demands. So I guess there's a new standard coming for what is allowed in sex. Right? You have to want to have sex with a frickin' fruitcake male tranny, but you're not allowed to want to have sex with women. Right? You can't have women on your beer cans, but you can have a tranny on your beer can. A woman can be hired to be sexually explicit with you, to offer herself to you. I'm sure she was hired by people, folks, like Democrats. You know, that's known as the honeypot. It's a trap to get him into a sexual innuendo situation and then try and expose him as some kind of cretinous pervert and to build a control file. I want you to think about this right now, because we ask all the time, how are DC politicians being controlled? How are they controlled? Well, they have what are known as control files. They've done something wrong and the bad guys know about it, and they've got it right there in the files. There it is. Ah, yes, Rudy Giuliani. Someone hired a prostitute to come on to him, take him to his hotel or his apartment, or take him to her apartment, whatever the case may be, and to get all kinds of pictures with him and her, and then accuse him of being whatever. Being a weirdo, being a cretin, being a pervert, being, you know, all the things that the Democrats are, but they can use that to control others. They can use that to control others. In fact, right? In fact, I figured that Marge Taylor Greene, who was getting a divorce, I don't know if she is divorced or not, who knows, but all of a sudden she flipped and she went over to the side of Kevin McCarthy, who is a stinking rhino Republican who is the Speaker of the House. And I keep saying, do your job. And he won't. And I kept thinking, Marge Taylor Greene, do your job. And she flipped to his side, right? Anyways, I keep saying impeachment. Either start impeaching people or we're done. And I'm already done with these loser politicians. But finally, it's here, folks. Not the big one, but the second to biggest big one. Impeachment. Now, Representative Marge Taylor Greene, I said I would start calling her Big Marge again if she introduces articles of impeachment against Biden. Well, she came close. 24 hours later, she's introducing articles of impeachment against FBI Director Christopher Wray. Someone else has issued articles of impeachment against Director of the Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas. It is time, folks. We need to hear the word impeachment, and they need to start having their trials. Go through the impeachment process to determine if there are high crimes, misdemeanors, conduct unbecoming, you name it, dereliction of duty. is an impeachable offense, folks. They know what their job is and they're not doing it. Well, Chris Wray has turned out to be one hell of a scumbag. And he needs to be impeached, and it needs to happen now. So thank God Marge Taylor Greene is doing that. But Biden should be there, right there with him. In fact, the whole lot ought to be arrested, put in pink jumpsuits, handcuffs, leg cuffs, marched in front of Congress. They just give them the gavel. Bam, you're all impeached. You know, they already have everything. They have everything. It's all the research has been done. Even, folks, that guy, John Durham, right? The Inspector General, Special Counsel, investigating dude. He's got all the information on the Steele report, the Steele dossier, the Russia collusion hoax, the bullshit attacks, all of the obstruction of justice by the FBI. That right there, obstruction of justice. That's a crime. Failure to comply with subpoenas is a crime, right? Contempt of Congress, crime. Crime after crime after crime. Not doing their job. That is, they have all the information on Hunter Biden, but they're not pressing charges. That's dereliction of duty, meaning a criminal and all of his compadres are walking around on the streets continuing to conduct their criminal activities, which seem to include drugs and drug use, prostitutions and prostitution use, as well as pay-to-play bribery schemes, buying influence in the U.S. government by doing business with the Biden family. Unfreaking believable is what we have, folks. Are you prepared? Remember, if these bad guys even get arrested, they can impeach Mayorkas and he'll just go away. They can impeach Christopher Wray and he'll just go away. But if they go after the Bidens or Hillary or Obama, it's going to be scorched earth, folks. Scorched earth. Now, at that level, that's the Biden level. What about the street level? What's going on in our neighborhood? Folks, they're trying to destroy this country at every level. I have an example of that. There is a 5th grade teacher who is putting LGBT themed, right? The gay, trans, bi, lesbian, fruitcake themed Disney movie, and says this to parents. Quote, your rights as parents are gone when your child is in the public school system. What she's saying is the attitude that the schools have, that the teachers have, that the unions have, that the school boards have, that as soon as the kid steps outside the door in the morning and either steps on the sidewalk or steps on a school bus, you're no longer a parent with rights. Now you're just the bill payer. All you do is pay the salary of these teachers, and they can show your kid whatever the fuck they want. They can groom the shit out of your kid for sex, as a sex toy, as a potential trans in the future, because they're pushing the shit and pushing it and pushing it. In fact, you could say that schools aren't even schools anymore. Let me show you what I'm talking about right now. In New York City, public elementary schools are now going to start housing illegal immigrants. Are schools for schooling children and educating? Or are they there for migrant housing? Or can they be both? Thanks, United Nations. And I'll tell you what, last night, Darcy T did her super chat donation and said, hey, it's all about the UN and their safe migration rule book that the United States is paying for. Yeah, we're paying for it and putting in action. In fact, it was filmed today down on the border. A military person opening a gate on the fence between Mexico and the United States and just allowing migrants to pour across. Where's the paperwork? Where are the visas? Nope. The U.S. government is following United Nations rules, folks, and allowing the safe entry into this country of people from other countries. Migration is not a human right. Migration stops along political boundaries. If the government ceases to exist, then the people can do what they want, right? But the government's in place to protect the rights of people. I tell you what, if the UN can demand that the United States government allow people into our country, can the United Nations demand that you open your door to them as well? Well, they're telling hotels, motels, hotels, schools, you are going to start housing illegal immigrants who have no right to be here, but are here because of the United Nations and the DC government, the corrupt Washington, DC government, colluding with an international conspiracy to destroy Western civilization utterly. You think I'm joking? Look around. Look at where we're at. Look at where we're at, folks. You've got questions. It is time for your questions. Get them into Ooman, pretty please. It is your turn to come and step up, folks. I've done the monologue. You guys here, I know you've got stuff on your mind. Get those questions in. Get those thoughts in. Get it all in, because I'm going to hit this button over here and it's going to flip over and it's going to be your turn to join. Now, of course, you're here on Subscribestar. You're here on thepreparedmind.club, and you've already paid your membership, $2 a month, and you join us live every single day. So do your, take advantage. It's your show now. Let's get it on. I've got more that I want to talk about, but I'll tell you what, I want to hear what's on your mind, what you're thinking. So let's do it. Let's get into it. Let's do the inner circle. Well, the inner circle with Jimmy anyways. I got an email from Ooman here. And in Illinois, they have a gun ban. It's in front of the state Supreme Court today. I don't know what the conclusion of that is. Did they come to the end of it? Right? The gun and magazine ban is in the Illinois Supreme Court. Now, I was pretty sure that the federal government decided that they said, the federal court put a stay on that shit and said, no, sorry, you don't get to do that, right? You don't get to tell people what to do. There we go. Okay, so, Ooman, are you there? What is going on with this? Do you have an answer? Did they make a decision? Or did they just start this kind of circus thing, man?
Well, you know what? I haven't heard anything today about what was going on. But when they did the injunction, and then they stayed the injunction, and it was supposed to be going back in front of the courts today, and I haven't heard anything about it on the radio, so I don't have an answer.
Okay. Yeah, I know the Second Amendment is huge, huge in people's minds. The federal courts are ruling in favor of the Second Amendment. And right now, the U.S. government seems to be operating as a United Nations tool when it comes to migration, which brings up guns. One of the UN symbols in New York City is a giant statue of a revolver with a barrel tied in a knot. They are anti-gun. Is that going to be the next move by the UN now that they control migration? Are they going to step up and start telling us how we have to deal with our guns?
Oh, I'm sure that's on the agenda. We got plenty of mass shootings going on again here. And, that's probably going to be the catalyst to say we need more gun control. And everybody gets scared into demanding that they do something about it.
Well, yeah, the Biden administration, since they took office, we've had nothing but mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting. It's interesting, though, that every time one occurs, we wait for it to be a white person who is a Nazi or a neo-Nazi or a white supremacist, and it never, ever, ever is. It's always a left-wing lunatic.
Yeah, and an NRA card-carrying lifetime member.
Yeah, oh, then there's that, of course, NRA, and probably some derelict soldier or Marine as well, right? We can't have those guys running around with guns, but it's never them.
No, well, I was just reading a story before the show about that shooting that was going on in New Mexico yesterday, and they finally identified the shooter, but didn't really give any details about the guy. Apparently, it's some 18-year-old high school kid. So I'm very interested to see if this was like some of the rumors that have been going around have been saying that this might be some kind of a copycat Nashville type situation.
Oh, really? It could be another tranny shooter?
Yeah, those are just rumors. I've heard a few people speculating about that, but given that it's a 18-year-old high school kid, it wouldn't surprise me.
Right. It's very sad, but also very telling that so many high schoolers are now violent. They're oppressed, whether they're oppressed as some kind of tranny sexual fruitcake or oppressed as a normal kid being oppressed by the system. They're all being oppressed, and they're all being, as far as I'm concerned, psychologically traumatized.
Yep.
The kids who aren't trannies and fruitcakes, they're being traumatized by having to put up with this and the homosexual books on the shelves and the freaking drag queen crap and the fucking rainbow flags and the communist flags and the fucking teachers with pink, green, blue, whatever colored hair yelling at them. And then you've got the kids that are being told you need to be a freak, and they agree with it. How can they be in a healthy state of mind, Oliver?
I don't know. I mean, when you get pounded with all this crap from the time you're in kindergarten, and then you're told that you're nothing but bad because of the color of your skin, I mean, or because your sexual orientation or lack of accepting other people's insanity, I have no idea what has to be going through some of these kids' heads these days. It's very sad.
Anyways, yeah, the Second Amendment is going to continue to be a big thumb in the eye of the UN, the Democrats, and the World Economic Forum. They don't like the fact that America has them. They just don't like that, and they can't get rid of them. I mean, with the federal courts now swinging heavily in favor, and even the Ninth District, or is it, yeah, the Ninth, the Ninth Circus Court of California, that federal court system used to be the stronghold of the liberal fruitcakes, and even they are swinging into and agreeing, California, your laws not allowed. Hawaii, your laws not allowed. The Second Amendment says what it says. Very fascinating. I'm surprised they're not just ignoring the Second Amendment the way the Fourth and Fifth Amendments have been ignored.
Well, the lawmakers are still ignoring it and passing these laws that have been deemed unconstitutional, despite the fact that they've been deemed unconstitutional. And in the meantime, it gives them the ability to, to wield their tyrannical powers.
Yeah, I really think that they should be held accountable. They know they're unconstitutional. I think they should be impeached at the very least, or tried for treason, because they're knowingly violating our constitutional rights. If King George from 1776 were alive today, we'd throw rotten tomatoes at him because we know he's a bastard. Well, why do we treat him or think of him any differently than the politicians in office today that we know are bastards and are violating our rights just as much as King George did?
Well, they have a real nice mechanism for distributing propaganda into people's heads 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with the internet and television. I mean, most people watch that and they believe what they hear on the news, and they form their opinions based on what they're told they should be thinking on the news, and they don't think for themselves, and then you hear that long enough, and you know what happens to a line when you repeat it long enough? It
becomes the truth to those people. That becomes their reality. Yes, it's exactly true, man. I always appreciate your opinion. I'm going to do this. Folks, get your questions down below. Lou Man will get them on the screen. I've got a lot more topics It's your show now. Let's do it. All right, man.
Okay, I'm going to have to go and find some questions here because I can't do both.
Was everyone out there asleep? What's going on?
I'll let you know when I find something here.
Okay, yeah. You guys get on the ball out there. All right, let us continue if we shall. It is that time of day. It is your show. Speaking of the courts, though, before we get to any questions, get your questions below. Planned Parenthood. That's right. The organization that was developed, funded, created, and empowered by the federal government that wants to give abortions to everybody. They are now making a political demand. That's right, folks. An organization that has the intent of providing abortion services. They're now saying that they want the U.S. Supreme Court packed. They want the Biden administration to step above and beyond his power, his authority, and start appointing, or rather nominating, Supreme Court justices and having the Senate approve them and pack the Supreme Court. Now, the threat with that always is, well, if this Democrat packs the Supreme Court, why shouldn't the next Republican president do the same? Why don't we have 500 Supreme Court justices? Because let me explain why it's not a good idea. Now, of course, the Supreme Court does not have to accept all the new cases that come. They don't have to accept a writ of certiorari and say, we'll hear everything that's presented to us. They select and they choose which ones are important. The reason they don't have, say, 30 Supreme Court justices is because there wouldn't be a consistency in rulings, because you would have a certain group of judges that would want to do, say, gun control, and a certain group of judges that would want to do property rights, and a certain group of judges that would want to do government restrictions or rules, constitutional rules applied to government. So they would all find their niche. And in one area you would have law, and in another area you might have lawlessness. So by having a small number of Supreme Court justices, you can get a consistent ruling, hopefully across the board, across all areas of law, and to be consistent with the Constitution. You pack the court with a bunch of left-wing loonies like Ketanji Brown Jackson, the most recent dipshit liberal addition, who could not identify or define what a woman is. Or El Pigo Sotomayor. And then you got turncoats like John Roberts, appointed by a Republican, is now as liberal as anyone else could be on that court, as far as I'm concerned. Anyone who looks at a government penalty for failure to obey Obama and calls it, no, that's a tax. Well, it's an unapportioned tax. It's a special tax applied only to citizens who disobey Obama with his Obamacare bullshit. Unbelievable, folks. But yeah, Planned Parenthood. Hey, I'll tell you what, why don't they lobby the government and demand that mandatory abortions happen too? That every woman must go out and somehow become impregnated and then go get an abortion. Why don't they mandate that? They want to pack the Supreme Court. Why not pack their office? See what happened, folks, is Planned Parenthood lost their funding. They lost their money-making operation. That's right. They make money aborting babies, on top of the fact that it is a disgusting moral position to have and a criminal action to commit, as far as I'm concerned, abortions. Right? When the federal government said, hey, right, it's up to the states to decide, Planned Parenthood lost an awful lot of states. And then, the schools and other scumbag politicians were like, we'll just bus all those women to states that have abortion, right? Well, here we are, folks. This is the world we live in. All right, Mr. Uman, I guess you've put together a few questions that have come in. Let's line them up. Let's talk about them here. And it's doing stuff with Nikki. That's right. She said, did you see the upheaval in Florida with the immigrant truckers and construction dudes because of DeSantis quickly signing the new immigrant bill. Apparently, the bill provides millions for DeSantis's migrant relocation initiative. This has gone down in the last 24 hours. The truckers are boycotting in Florida right now. Well, I tell you what, there's a lot of problems, folks, across this country. Florida, no different, right? The one state in the union, well, I guess Hawaii would be the other state, that says, you know what? We're not going to do winter. We're skipping winter out altogether. Anyways, the boycott, because, yeah, we need to protect our country. If we would, let's go back to the beginning of Nikki's comment there, Mr. Uvan. You know, immigrant truckers, immigrant construction workers. I tell you what, my understanding is on all the sites I'm aware of, they're still doing their jobs. But I see it's all politics at this point, right? Like when we boycott Dick's Sporting Goods or Coca-Cola, or we boycott Sports Illustrated, or the Washington used to be the Redskins, not the Redskins. Now we're just the Washington football team, right? We boycott them. It has a small effect. There's just a small number of us out here, but it can hurt. Ask Budweiser. So these immigrant truckers, you want to cause some trouble? Then get the fuck out. Don't just boycott. Don't just get the fuck out of the state, whatever state you're in. You want to come to Mississippi and cause trouble? You want to go to any country and cause, just get the hell out. Leave then. Make room for other people who want to work. Same with the construction dudes. They make plenty of money on construction sites. I remember years ago, this would have been 1996, I was at a construction site on a levee in Sacramento, California. There was a guy who spoke pretty good English, but not really good English. And he was dropping a lead ball on a string down into a mud-filled ditch that was being dug through the middle of a frickin' levee. This is 30 years ago. I said, hey, is this a good job or what? And he was like, yeah, it's okay, man. I said, how much do you make? He says, I make $25 an hour. I said, you make $25 an hour making sure that that machine digs a ditch deep enough. And he goes, yep, I get paid really damn good money to do this. I said, and you're a Mexican? He's like, yep, right from Mexico. And this is what I get paid. They make plenty of money. If they want to bitch and complain that we want to protect our country from illegals who are not just coming from Mexico, but they're coming from Arab nations, they're coming from African nations, they're coming from Asian nations, and all three, folks, hate this country as much as any South or Central American nation. We have people coming here who are not friendly to this country, who are suing hotel chains, and folks, hotel chains are like a franchise. A family could own one hotel that is a Clarion, or they could own a Ramada Inn, or they could own a Best Western. It's just a brand on the hotel. That's all it is. It's just a brand. So they're suing hotel owners for saying, we don't want you people here. We've got other people who are coming. We have people who have reservations, and you can't come here, check in, and then say you're not checking out, and then they have the government support you. You see, this is all anti-capitalist. It's all anti-communism. I'm sorry, it's pro-communism, anti-capitalist. It's all anti-America, anti-freedom. It's destroy America bullshit. And all these people coming across the border, and anyone who supports them is for the destruction of America. Fuck them. It's time to fight back. And if DeSantis is doing something about it, at least he's doing something about it instead of just sitting back on his fat ass like Governor Pritzker in Illinois, or Gavin Newsom, who's probably bobbing up and down on a piece of plastic in his chair, enjoying himself while screwing over the rest of the country. I've had it with these people. They're a bunch of jackasses with authority, sadly. Anyways, I caught a little bit of that, Nikki, and that's my opinion on it. You want an opinion? I'll give it to you. But my thing is, think about it for yourself. Come with your own thoughts, analyze, study the data, the information, the little snippets of factoids that we get and put it together yourself. That's the thing, is put it together. Figure it out and then start taking action, right? Prep to action. Okay, oh man, what do we got, man? This is H12. I believe it's Heidi, who says, with the Durham papers, that would be the special investigator for the IG office, John Durham, with his papers showing Trump was harassed and unjustly condemned, could Trump sue them all for defamation and slander? I don't know what the legal remedy is. I have some legal experience, some legal education. Spent some time in the legal trenches, have I? But this is an interesting one because Trump is a public figure. I don't think he has a civil case, except that the people who participated, what I'm saying is like the newspapers and television, they took the government paperwork as, well, it's fact, it's the government. So we can print what the government is saying. But those who are in the government, I think they are the ones who are legally exposed. They are liable for their libel and slander, right? Because they knew what they were doing and they did it intentionally. It deprived Trump of his, shall we say, his good name. It deprived him and scared away voters, which I think is a form of election fraud and election engineering. Manipulating an election in the United States of America for the president of the United States, using lies and using the government as the authoritative source of the lie. That is definitely, in my opinion, unlawful, and it should be criminal, as well as opening up for civil suits from Trump himself. So the answer is, Trump should be suing all of them. I don't know about the newspapers and the internet companies and the studios, right? The news network studios, but certainly everyone in the government responsible for putting those papers together, disseminating them. But if any newspaper or television network or any company knew about it being a lie and bullshit, then that, of course, opens them up as well. I believe Roger Stone, a big Trump supporter who has been harassed, arrested, treated like shit, abused, his rights are violated by the government, he should be suing everyone as well. General Flynn, you bet. Everyone should be suing the ever-loving shit. Now, here's the problem. What judge are you going to get? What judge will they get? Will they get an Obama appointee? Or will they get a Trump or Bush appointee? You had 8 years of Obama. There's a lot of Obama judges out there. Like an idiot, he didn't appoint as many as he should have. Trump, on the other hand, appointed the shit out of judges. But after you win in a case, it goes to always appeal. That's right. They love to appeal these cases. And so what judge appellate panel do you get? Do you get an appellate panel that is Democrat or Republican? Of course, you would think and hope that judges were politically unbiased and that they looked with cold hard examination at the Constitution, at the statute that's being applied, and at the facts of the case. But that's not how this is, folks. We ain't in that movie anymore. We're witnessing the political persecution of American citizens who were lawfully protesting a bunch of crap January 6th, and they've been arrested, held incarcerated without public trial by a jury of their peers for over 2 years. Some made it a year and got and finished up. They're being sentenced, folks, to prison for political reasons, not because they did anything wrong, but because they're being called a name. Insurrectionist. Just unbelievable. Fuck Washington, D.C. Thank you, H12. Thank you, Heidi. Let us move on if we shall. We got James Nicholson. He says, hey, John, Hey, Jim. Any news or thoughts on the World Health Organization pandemic treaty? Well, I'm not allowed to have an opinion because I'm not a medical expert with the last name of Fauci. I am not a medical expert who is on the World Health Organization. And if anyone were to say anything that contradicts the World Health Organization, then they must be wrong, because the World Health Organization is without fault, blame, blemish. And in all ways, they are the ultimate say-so in anything having to do with medicine. So for that reason, I'm not allowed to speak against it, period. Now, there's my thoughts on it. It is a completely censored and controlled area of discussion. Now, for me in my life, I promote freedom of thought, and I promote it for those around me. To you, I say freedom of thought. Live free, think freely, come to your own conclusions based on the information we have on cerveza bug, the Jim Jones juice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you believe anything the WHO has to say? And if the answer is yes, then go get another booster. If the answer is no, then what do you think is going to happen with that treaty if it passes? It'll be just like the United Nations and their migrant policy. And we can see that the government is more than happy to shove that right up our asses, like it or not, by letting in millions and millions and millions of what would otherwise be called illegal immigrants, but are United Nations protected migrant class people sent here to destroy this country. They are sent here to destroy this country. I'll say it one more time. Those people, these migrants, are sent here to destroy America. They're being sent into European nations to destroy their cultures, their economies, and the people, period. They want to breed them out and replace them with these morons from third world shitholes. And that's a fact. That's what this is all about. Right here, that treaty is about more destruction for America and the mandating of your health care and giving it to another authority. It's completely unconstitutional. It's unconscionably evil, and fuck them. Bring it on, folks. Come and find me. Hello, DC. You know where I live. You've seen these glasses before. All right. Man. Thank you, James Nicholson. Great topic. I just have to be very careful about what I talk about. Be sure, folks, to consult the CDC, the National Institutes of Health, and the World Health Organization for your healthcare needs. There's a PSA that everyone's just going to line up and fucking follow. Mr. X says this: with this United Nations border crossing issue, what is the next? What is next? UN with blue helmets knocking on your door to take your weapons? Oh, yeah, that sounds about right. Let's see. They've got medical covered. They've got migration covered. They're pushing their tranny, and folks, trust me, this trans LGBTQ crap is also UN based. It's UN based. All of this sensitivity and inclusion bullshit is UN based because it's over in Europe and it's in the United States. You think it's a fucking coincidence, or is it a collusion induced constructive plan designed to deconstruct Western civilization and supplant it, replace it with this fucking devious, sexually deviant trash? So yes, they're also coming after our military, are they not? And have they not succeeded in pissing everyone off and chasing out as many good Americans as they possibly can? So far, so good. So far, so good. So yeah, how about the UN knocking on your door to take your weapons? Try it, folks. I just think that, yeah, it is a twofer Tuesday, and it is a they've gone too far Tuesday. They've gone too far. When are we, the people, going to say no more? You see, with the various levels of policing power, people can't control their local areas. Because within your, say, county, within your city, certainly within your state, you have city, county, state, and federal jurisdictions that are overlapping. So if you wanted to kick the feds out, the state might say, no, you don't have the authority to do that. And you say, well, then fuck you, state. You get the fuck out. You can't kick the state out. They'll say, well, we're within the state. Folks, this is a screw job extraordinary. They are here to fuck us over. Ultimately, they are going to try and take our weapons. Try it door to door. They can't do it. They cannot do it. They do not have the manpower. They don't have the willpower. They don't have the guts to go door to door looking for guns. What they do have is the ability to squeeze us, squeeze the living shit out of us financially, monetarily, economically. They have the will and desire and the power to squeeze states and geographic areas and hurt them. They can stop letting ships go into ports. They can stop taking goods off of ships and from ports and stop putting them on trains and trucks. They've demonstrated they have the ability to make shortages. The federal government has demonstrated they can create massive inflation. They can hurt us financially. All in an effort to get to your guns. Are they willing to do that? They're willing to shut down the entire fucking planet over cerveza bug. Do you doubt for a second that they won't try and take your guns through a racketeering, extortion, duress political program? I have no doubts. I have no doubts. All right. Well, we're at the end of the show, and I was asking and asking and asking, and now you're giving it to me. It is Chin Music. And he has this. He says, men not willing to engage in politics will be governed by their inferiors. That was by Plato, folks, the great philosopher. Plato. So Chin Music says, let's all watch sports. No, thank you. I don't want to watch sports anymore because I'm afraid the cheerleaders on the sidelines are going to have testicles and they'll fall out of their skirt. I don't want to watch sports because I don't want to watch announcers that don't know jack shit about the sports, but they're there because they're part of a environmental social government's inclusivity program. I'm tired of it. I don't want to watch sports and sports casting and sports commentary because it's all a freaking distraction. I've become less interested in sports over time, not because I didn't enjoy them, but because I see what it is. It is a politicized racketeering business designed to keep us distracted and fuck us over, period. And not only that, it's designed now to influence children and kids because sports figures want to pretend like they're intellectual gods and that they can dictate to us. Yeah, dictate, not just recommend or suggest, but rather tell us that we're evil, bad people if we don't support woke shit, wear pink fucking shoes and put rainbow on our helmets or uniforms and run around and say the word pride as if it really fucking matters. White pride, bad. Fag, gay, lesbian, what do they call themselves? Oh, queer. They have all the names they use for themselves. That's right, folks. If you're a protected class, you can use a word for yourself, but no one else can. And if anyone does, they need to be canceled. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but it's also reality. Thank you, Mr. Chin Music, for all you do for the channel, for everyone out here by bringing up really awesome topics and supporting this channel, this network, everything that Uman does, Jolene does, and we all do. Folks, I'm going to check out. I need to turn off this green screen and go back to the RMZ and go slurp out a pina colada. Anyways, just to give you guys an idea of some of the technology we have here. Anyways, I tell you what. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, though, for all the work you guys do and all the support you give. It really is, folks, that kind of a day for me. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. Godspeed to you.